Alan Garrett felt small in the Grand Galactic Council chamber. 50 alien species had representatives seated in a giant circle. Holograms flickered above the center table, showing planets and stars. The air smelled like a mix of flowers and something metallic. Alan tugged at his blue Earth ambassador uniform, trying to look confident. Earth had joined the Council only 3 years ago. Most alien species still looked at humans with suspicion or pity. They called humans primitive and aggressive in private conversations. Alan had heard them whispering when they thought he couldn't understand their languages. Today was different. No one was whispering about humans. They were all too scared about the news. "The Chronovar fleet has crossed into the Cestus system," said Zarel, the tall insect-like ambassador with 4 arms and clear wings. His voice translator made his words sound flat and cold. "They have already destroyed the outer defense stations." The room filled with nervous chatter. Different alien voices mixed together with their translators, creating a storm of worried sounds. Alan watched carefully as the Council's leader, High Counselor Ziva, raised her ancient hand for silence. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes held wisdom from living over 500 years. "We must discuss our options," she said. Her voice was calm, but Alan could see fear in her eyes. The Chronovar were the most feared species in the galaxy. They weren't part of the Council. They weren't interested in trade or friendship. They consumed worlds, literally eating planets for resources and leaving nothing alive behind. 3 inhabited planets had already been destroyed in the last year alone. "We should negotiate," said Ambassador Trell from the Luminary species. His skin glowed with patterns of light that shifted with his emotions. Right now, the patterns showed fear. "We could offer them resources from uninhabited systems." "They don't want offers," said Ambassador Cluth of the Varaxians. "They want everything." "Perhaps if we gave them passage through to the next sector," suggested another alien. "They might spare Cestus." Alan listened as the representatives talked in circles. No one wanted to say what needed to be done. The Cestus system had 4 billion living beings on its planets. They were about to die if nothing changed. He pressed the button that would let him speak. A small light appeared in front of his seat. "The human representative wishes to address the Council," announced the chamber's AI. All eyes turned to Alan. Some aliens had multiple eyes or sensory organs, but all focused on him now. The room went quiet. "The Chronovar won't negotiate," Alan said, standing up. "They've never changed course once they've targeted a system. We've all studied their pattern." "And what would you suggest, young species?" asked a floating gas-filled alien named Grath. "Your kind has barely reached the stars." Alan took a deep breath. "We fight together." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Some aliens stood up. Others changed colors in anger or surprise. "Silence," commanded High Counselor Ziva. When the noise reduced, she looked at Alan. "Explain yourself, Ambassador Garrett." "The Chronovar succeed because no one fights back properly," Alan said. "Each species tries to defend itself alone, or worse, tries to bargain, but we need to combine our forces and attack them directly." "Attack?" The word was repeated around the room like it was something dirty. "Most Council species haven't fought wars in thousands of years," said Ambassador Cluth. "We evolved past violence," Alan nodded. "That's admirable, but the Chronovar haven't evolved past violence. They understand only power, and humans understand violence quite well, don't they?" said Ambassador Trell, his skin patterns showing distaste. "Yes," Alan replied honestly. "We do. Earth still has soldiers. We still train for war, even in peacetime. You call us ruthless for it. But right now, that's exactly what the galaxy needs." He pressed a button on his wrist device. The hologram in the center of the room changed to show Earth ships. Not the few diplomatic vessels known to the Council, but Earth's full defense fleet. Over 30 warships appeared in the display. "This is the United Earth Space Force," Alan explained. "Ready to deploy to Cestus immediately." The aliens stared in shock. Some looked fearful, others angry. You've hidden military vessels, accused one ambassador. No, Alan replied. We declared our defense capabilities when we joined. No one asked for details because no one thought our primitive ships mattered. High Counselor Ziva studied the hologram carefully. These vessels are built for combat. Yes, Alan said. And our people are trained for it. We're offering to lead the defense of Cestus. Ambassador Zarel's wing membranes vibrated with tension. Humans would sacrifice their lives for a system not their own? That's what being part of a community means, Alan answered. On Earth, we have a saying. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. The council chamber fell silent again. Alan could see the representatives processing this idea. For many, the concept of fighting seemed foreign, almost barbaric. But he could also see something else growing in their eyes. Hope. I will contact Earth immediately, Alan continued. Our fleet can reach Cestus in 48 hours. Any council species willing to join us should prepare their ships. You would command this alliance? Asked High Counselor Ziva. Earth will lead the military response, yes, Alan said. We're asking for technical support from species with advanced shield and weapons technology. Slowly, one by one, representatives began to signal their agreement. Not all, but enough. As the session ended, Ambassador Trell approached Alan privately. You seem eager for battle, human. Alan shook his head. No one wants war, Ambassador, but we've studied history. Sometimes standing by and hoping for peace only leads to destruction. And if you fail? If your ships are destroyed? Then we will have failed doing something instead of nothing, Alan replied. Back in his private chamber, Alan opened a secure channel to Earth. Fleet Admiral Samantha Wells appeared on the screen, her uniform crisp and her expression serious. The reader, Council has agreed, Alan told her. Operation Defiance is approved. Admiral Wells nodded once. The fleet is ready, Ambassador. We've been preparing since the first Chronovar sighting. Many council species think we're ruthless for maintaining a military, Alan said. They're about to learn that sometimes ruthlessness in defense of others is the highest form of compassion. As he ended the transmission, Alan looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Chronovar were advancing, confident that no one would truly stand against them. They were about to meet humans for the first time. Fleet Admiral Samantha Wells stood in the war room beneath Washington, D.C. The underground facility was built to survive even the worst attacks. Large screens covered the walls, showing maps of space, ship positions, and data from across the galaxy. 20 military officers and government officials sat around a large table, their faces serious in the blue light from the displays. The Chronovar fleet has established orbit around Cestus 4, Samantha said, pointing to a red cluster of dots on the main screen. They've begun landing harvester machines on the surface. We have less than 3 days before they start breaking down the planet's crust. President Elaine Foster nodded. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly and her eyes showed she hadn't slept much. And the council fleet? Most species are still gathering their ships, Samantha replied. They haven't fought a war in centuries. Their vessels are advanced, but not designed for battle. Defense Secretary Gregory Wallace frowned. So we're first to the fight. Again. That's our job, Samantha said simply. Captain Olivia Martinez stepped forward. She was younger than most in the room, but her reputation as a tactical genius had earned her a place at this table. Admiral, I've analyzed the Chronovar attack patterns from previous systems. She touched controls on her tablet, and new images appeared on the main screen. They showed strange-looking alien ships, dark and spiky, with red energy glowing from within. The Chronovar always follow the same approach, Olivia explained. They surround a planet, deploy harvesters, and protect them while they work. Their ships form a defensive wall that no single attack has ever broken. But no one's ever attacked with a coordinated fleet, President Foster noted. Exactly, Olivia said. They've only faced desperate last stands from individual planets, never a planned multi-species assault. Samantha studied the images. Captain, you've developed a strategy? Olivia nodded and changed the display again. Now it showed human ships moving in complex patterns around the Chronovar fleet. Operation Hammerfall, she said. A three-pronged attack. First, our main fleet draws their attention here. She pointed to one side of the display. Then, while they're focused on us, stealth insertion teams land on the planet to disrupt the harvesters directly. Stealth insertion? Asked one of the Joint Chiefs. Through their fleet? Yes, Olivia confirmed. We've adapted our stealth technology based on data from the Viridians. The Chronovar rely mainly on energy detection, not visual scanning. And the third prong? Asked Samantha. Olivia's face became more serious. Nuclear space mines deployed along these vectors. She highlighted several paths on the display. When detonated, they'll create electromagnetic pulses that should disable Chronovar systems temporarily. The room went quiet. Nuclear weapons in space were banned by Council law, except in the most extreme circumstances. The Council representatives will object, said Secretary Wallace. Some already have, admitted Samantha. But Ambassador Garrett convinced enough of them that this qualifies as an extinction-level threat. President Foster stood up and walked closer to the display. She studied the plan for a long moment before turning to face the room. How many ships will we lose? She asked quietly. Captain Olivia took a deep breath. Best estimate, 30% of our fleet. But without this plan, we lose everything. The Chronovar will consume Cestus, then move on to the next system. Eventually, they'll reach Earth. And our ground teams? The President pressed. 50% casualty rate expected, Olivia answered honestly. These are suicide missions, Madam President. Samantha watched as President Foster absorbed this information. The room was silent, everyone waiting for her decision. Have you asked for volunteers? The President finally asked. We don't need to, Samantha replied. Every Special Forces unit has already volunteered. They understand what's at stake. President Foster nodded slowly. That's why the Council calls us Ruthless, because we're willing to sacrifice. They call us Ruthless, Samantha said, but they'll call us heroes if this works. The President returned to her seat. Admiral Wells, you have authorization to proceed with Operation Hammerfall. God be with our people. Samantha straightened her back. Thank you, Madam President. We'll depart immediately. As the meeting ended, Captain Olivia approached Samantha privately. Admiral, there's something else you should know. The Luminari representative provided information about Chronovar biology. She handed Samantha a data tablet. On it were complex diagrams of alien physiology, with certain points highlighted in red. They have 3 nervous systems, Olivia explained, but they all connect through these nodes. Our science team has created specialized weapons to target these weak points. Samantha studied the information with interest. The Council species have had this data all along? Yes, Olivia confirmed. But they never thought to use it offensively. They've been focusing on escape and defense for so long that they stopped looking for ways to fight back. Samantha handed the tablet back. Make sure all ground teams have these new weapons and send my thanks to the Luminari. There's one more thing, Olivia said, her voice lower. The Council is sending observers to watch our attack. They want to see how we fight. Let them watch, Samantha replied. It's time they learned that sometimes you need to be ruthless to survive. Later that day, Samantha stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, Earth's largest warship. Through the viewports, she could see the rest of the fleet preparing for departure. 30 ships of various sizes, all built for combat. Not as advanced as Council vessels, perhaps, but crewed by people who knew how to fight. Lieutenant Ryan Patel approached and saluted. Admiral, all ships report ready for departure. Jump coordinates are set for the Cestus system. Thank you, Lieutenant, Samantha said. She pressed the communication button on her chair. All vessels, this is Admiral Wells. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for all people of the Galactic Council. Many call us ruthless for maintaining our military strength. Today we show them why that strength is necessary. She paused, looking out at the fleet once more. The people of Cestus face extinction. We will not allow it. Our mission is clear. Protect the innocent, stop the Chronovar, and show the galaxy that humans stand with our allies, no matter the cost. Prepare for jump. One by one, the ships of Earth's fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving the safety of their home system behind. They were heading toward the greatest battle humanity had ever faced, and somewhere in the Cestus system, billions of alien beings looked up at their skies, unaware that their only hope was a species that most of the galaxy considered too aggressive, too primitive, and too ruthless to be trusted. Lieutenant Commander Keith Davidson watched the stars streak by outside the viewport of the UES Valiant. The ship hummed with energy as it moved through hyperspace. In 12 hours, they would reach the Cestus system. 12 hours until the biggest battle humans had ever fought in space. Keith checked the tactical display one more time. 30 human ships against a Chronovar fleet of hundreds. The odds were terrible, but humans had faced bad odds before. "Status report, Commander?" asked a voice behind him. Keith turned to see Captain Patricia Franklin enter the bridge. Her uniform was perfect, her short gray hair neatly trimmed. Her eyes, though, showed the same worry everyone felt. "All systems normal, Captain," Keith reported. "The fleet is maintaining formation in hyperspace, no issues to report." Patricia nodded and took her seat in the command chair. "And our special cargo?" Keith knew she meant the nuclear space mines and the new weapons designed to target Chronovar. "Biology." "Secure and ready, ma'am." "Good." Patricia looked around the bridge at the crew members. Most were young. Some had never seen real combat. "Send word to all department heads. I want to speak with them in 1 hour." As Keith sent the message, Communications Officer Lisa Wright spoke up from her station. "Commander, I'm receiving a transmission from the Council observer ship." "Put it through," ordered Patricia. The main screen flickered to show an alien face. It belonged to Admiral Nexus of the Viridian species. His insect-like features were hard for humans to read, but his 4 eyes seemed to study them carefully. "Captain Franklin," the alien said through his translator. "The Council observer vessel will rendezvous with your fleet at the edge of the Cestus system. We have also made contact with several Council member ships that wish to join your battle group." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "Join us, you mean fight alongside us?" "Indeed," Nexus replied. "Not many, 5 vessels, but they have advanced shields and sensors that may assist your operation." Keith saw Patricia's surprise. They hadn't expected any Council ships to actually fight with them. "We welcome their assistance, Admiral," Patricia said. "Please send their specifications so we can incorporate them into our tactical plan." After the transmission ended, Patricia turned to Keith. 5 ships. It's not much." "It's more than we expected," Keith pointed out. "The Council hasn't fought a war in centuries." Patricia stood and walked to the tactical display. "What's your assessment of our strategy, Commander? Be honest." Keith hesitated, then spoke quietly, so others wouldn't hear. "It's risky. We're counting on the Chronovar, not expecting a direct attack. If they adapt quickly, we could lose everything." "And the ground teams?" she asked. "They know it's a one-way trip for most of them," Keith said, "but they're still ready to go." Patricia stared at the display, where small dots represented their ships moving toward danger. "The Council calls us ruthless because we're willing to sacrifice. They don't understand that sometimes sacrifice is necessary. Maybe after today they will," Keith suggested. 12 hours later, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Cestus system. Immediately, their sensors picked up the Chronovar ships surrounding the 4th planet. "All ships. Reporting ready, Commander," said Lisa from Communications. "Allied Council vessels are maintaining their position at the designated rendezvous point." Keith frowned. "They're waiting to see if we get slaughtered before committing." "Can't blame them," Patricia said. "We're asking them to do something they haven't done in thousands of years." The tactical display updated to show the Chronovar positions. Their ships formed a sphere around the planet. On the surface, red dots showed where harvester machines were already at work, drilling into the planet's crust. "Status of the planet?" Patricia asked. Science Officer Mason Grant checked his readings. Population centers are being systematically destroyed. The harvesters appear to be targeting resource-rich areas first. Estimated planetary breakdown will begin in 48 hours. Patricia took a deep breath. Communications send to all human vessels. Operation Hammerfall is now active. Deploy nuclear mines along vectors Alpha through Delta. Stealth squadrons, you have green light for insertion. Keith watched as smaller ships detached from the fleet. These were the stealth insertion vessels carrying Special Forces teams. Their job was to land on the planet's surface and destroy the harvester machines directly. With their new stealth technology, they might slip past the chronovar defenses. At the same time, other ships moved to deploy the space mines in specific patterns around the chronovar fleet. These nuclear devices weren't meant to destroy enemy vessels, but to create electromagnetic pulses that would disable their systems temporarily. Nuclear mines deployed, Captain, reported Weapons Officer Ben Grant. Ready to detonate on your command. All stealth vessels report successful launch, added Lisa. Estimated time to planetary insertion, 20 minutes. Patricia nodded. Now for our part. All ships, attack formation Delta. Target the chronovar command vessels in the northern hemisphere. Keith felt the ship accelerate as it moved toward Mama, the enemy fleet. Around them, the rest of the human vessels spread out into their attack formation. It looked like a direct frontal assault, exactly what the chronovar would expect. Captain, Keith said, Council observer ship is transmitting. Admiral Nexus requests to know why we're charging directly at the enemy. He says it appears to be suicide. Patricia smiled slightly. Tell him to keep watching. As the human fleet approached the chronovar ships, the enemy responded exactly as expected. Their vessels moved to intercept, focusing their weapons on the incoming threat. Enemy vessels adjusting position, reported Tactical Officer Maya Rogers. They're targeting our lead ships. Hold course, Patricia ordered. Time to mine detonation? 30 seconds, Ben replied. Keith watched the distance close between the fleets. The chronovar ships were massive, dark shapes against the starfield. Energy weapons began to fire, hitting the shields of the lead human vessels. Shields at 80%, Maya called out, taking heavy fire. 10 seconds to detonation. Ben counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In silent flashes across space, the nuclear mines exploded. There was no sound, but the tactical display showed the electromagnetic pulses washing over the chronovar vessels. One by one, enemy ships began to drift, their systems failing. EMP successful, Ben shouted. 60% of chronovar ships affected. Now, Patricia ordered, all vessels, execute attack pattern Omega. Target their command ships while they're disabled. The human fleet changed formation instantly, breaking into smaller groups that targeted specific enemy vessels. Their weapons fire concentrated on the largest chronovar ships. On the Council observer vessel, Admiral Nexus watched in amazement as the human strategy unfolded. Beside him stood Ambassador Alan Garrett, still recovering from injuries but unwilling to miss the battle. Your vessels deliberately drew their attention, Nexus observed. They sacrificed their safety to create an opening. That's what humans do, Alan replied as they watched the battle unfold. We're willing to take risks that others won't. That's why the Council needs us. As the space battle raged, the stealth vessels carrying human Special Forces teams were landing on the planet's surface. Operation Hammerfall had only just begun. Major Diane Howard pressed her back against a broken wall as energy blasts hit nearby. The air smelled like burning metal and dust. Her team of 12 Special Forces soldiers was scattered among the ruins of what once had been a beautiful city. Ancestus 4. Team 2, report position, she whispered into her comm unit. Lieutenant Nathan Beck's voice came through, quiet but clear. 200 meters east of the target. Heavy chronovar presence between us and the harvester control node. Diane checked her tactical display. The small screen on her wrist showed the positions of all human teams across the planet's surface. 30 teams had landed successfully. 10 had already been lost. Hold position, she ordered. All teams will attack simultaneously. Wait for my signal. She peeked around the corner. 3 Chronovar soldiers stood guard near a large machine that drilled into the ground. The aliens were tall and strange, with gray skin that looked like stone and 4 arms ending in clawed hands. They carried energy weapons and wore no protective gear. They didn't need to. Their skin was naturally armored. Diane's team carried special weapons designed to target Chronovar biology. The data from the Luminary had identified weakness points in the alien nervous system. Now they just had to get close enough to use them. "Team leader, this is Orbital Command," said a voice in her ear. "Space battle is proceeding. Enemy fleet is partially disabled but still fighting. You have a 30-minute window to complete your mission." "Copy that," Diane replied. She signaled to her team. "Prepare to move." Sergeant Wade Carter nodded from his position nearby. He held a large weapon that looked like a bulky rifle with glowing blue lines along its barrel. "Neural disruptors ready." "Major," he confirmed. Diane checked the positions of the other teams one last time. "All ground teams, execute attack in 3, 2, 1. Across the planet, human special forces teams emerged from hiding and attacked Chronovar positions simultaneously. The aliens, focused on their harvesting operations, were caught by surprise. In orbit above Cestus 4, Lieutenant Commander Keith Davidson watched the battle unfold from the bridge of the UES Valiant. The tactical display showed both the space and ground operations. "Ground teams report initial success," said Communications Officer Lisa Wright. 17 harvester control nodes destroyed so far. Captain Patricia Franklin nodded, but her face remained serious. "And our fleet status?" Keith checked the data. 4 ships lost, ma'am. 7 more with significant damage, but we've disabled or destroyed 28 enemy vessels. Lisa's console beeped with an incoming message. "Captain, Admiral Nexus from the Council Observer ship is requesting to speak with you." "Put him through," Patricia ordered. The alien admiral's face appeared on screen. His compound eyes seemed to shimmer with excitement. "Captain Franklin," he said, his translator making his voice sound flat. "The Council ships are moving to join your battle. They request coordination with your fleet." Patricia couldn't hide her surprise. "All 5 Council vessels?" 17 vessels now, Nexus corrected. "More have arrived and chosen to fight." Keith exchanged a look with Patricia. This was unexpected. The Council races were actually joining the battle. "Send them attack pattern Delta coordinates," Patricia ordered, "and thank them for their assistance." As the human fleet continued to engage the Chronovar ships, the newly arrived Council vessels moved into position. Their advanced shields and weapons technologies complemented the human tactics. On the planet's surface, Major Diane Howard led her team through the ruined city toward the main harvester control center. They had destroyed 3 smaller harvester machines already, but the main control node was their primary target. "Movement ahead," warned Sergeant Carter, raising his hand for the team to stop. Diane signaled for everyone to take cover. Through her binoculars, she could see at least 20 Chronovar guards around the main control center. A massive machine towered behind them, its drills already deep into the planet's crust. "Too many to take head-on," she muttered. Corporal Jack Nelson, the team's explosives expert, moved closer to her. "Major, I have an idea. The building to the east has a clear line of sight to the control center. If we can place charges there and detonate them, it would create a distraction." Diane considered the plan. "Good thinking, Corporal. You and Carter place the charges. The rest of us will prepare for the assault." As Nelson and Carter moved away, Diane contacted the other teams in the area. Team 2 and Team 5 were about to create a diversion. "When you see the explosion to the east of the main control node, attack from your positions." "Understood," came Lieutenant Beck's reply. "Team 2 ready?" "Team 5 ready and waiting," added another voice. Diane checked her weapon, a neural disruptor designed specifically to damage Chronovar nervous systems. Regular weapons barely hurt the stone-like aliens, but these new devices could shut down their complex neural pathways. "Charges set," Nelson reported over the comm. "Ready to detonate on your command." Diane took a deep breath. "All teams in position?" After receiving confirmation from everyone, she gave the order. Detonate now. The explosion shook the ground as part of the eastern building collapsed. As expected, many Chronovar guards rushed toward the sound. Now! Diane shouted, and her team moved forward. From 3 directions, human special forces teams attacked the Chronovar position. The neural disruptors proved immediately effective. When hit, the aliens froze in place, their multiple nervous systems shutting down one by one. But the Chronovar fought back fiercely. Energy blasts cut through the air, hitting several humans. Corporal Nelson fell, a smoking hole in his chest. Despite losses, the human teams pushed forward. Diane reached the control node first, planting explosive charges on its base while her team provided cover fire. Charges set, she reported to all teams. Fall back, 20 seconds to detonation. As the humans retreated, more Chronovar forces arrived. Lieutenant Beck's team created a defensive line, allowing Diane and her remaining soldiers to withdraw. Beck, pull your team out now, Diane ordered. Negative, Major, came his calm reply. We'll hold them off. Complete the mission. Diane wanted to argue, but there was no time. Understood, Lieutenant. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. She and her remaining team members reached a safe distance just as the explosives detonated. The main control node erupted in flames and twisted metal. The massive harvester machine above it shuddered and began to collapse. In orbit, the combined human and council fleet was turning the tide against the Chronovar. The alien ships, already damaged by the electromagnetic pulses, struggled to maintain formation. On the council observer vessel, Ambassador Alan Garrett stood beside Admiral Nexus, watching the battle with a mixture of hope and sorrow. Your ground forces are succeeding, Nexus said, but at great cost. Alan nodded solemnly. That's the price of freedom, Admiral. Sometimes victory requires sacrifice. Across the planet, other human teams were reporting similar successes. One by one, the harvester machines were being destroyed. And in space, the Chronovar fleet was beginning to retreat. The battle for Cestus would be remembered as the first time the Chronovar had ever been defeated. And it happened because humans were willing to be ruthless in defense of others. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as Admiral Samantha Wells concluded her report. 3 weeks had passed since the Battle of Cestus IV. The holographic display showed images of the retreating Chronovar fleet, reduced to less than half its original size. The enemy has withdrawn from the Cestus system, she stated formally. Her uniform was clean and pressed, but dark circles under her eyes showed how little she had slept. However, this was not a final victory. They will return, possibly with greater numbers. High Counselor Ziva rose from her seat, her ancient blue skin looking paler than before. You lost 7 vessels and over 2,000 personnel in this battle, yet you committed your forces without hesitation. That's what allies do, President Elaine Foster replied from her position beside Admiral Wells. We stand together. The council chamber looked different now. Several seats remained empty, representatives of worlds that had joined the fight and lost their lives. But there was something else new. Respect in the eyes of the alien delegates when they looked at the humans. For 12,000 years, the council has existed, Ziva continued. In that time, we have valued diplomacy, trade, and peaceful solutions above all else. We believed warfare to be a primitive trait that advanced species should overcome. Many council members nodded in agreement. This had been their way for millennia. We were wrong, Ziva said simply. Murmurs spread through the chamber. For the High Counselor to admit error was unprecedented. Ambassador Daniel Scott, who had replaced Alan Garrett after he was injured in the battle, stepped forward. Peace is always preferable, but peace must sometimes be defended. Indeed, agreed the Viridian representative. His clear wings caught the light as he stood. Perhaps we have been wrong to view humanity's warrior nature as backward. Perhaps it is instead necessary. Admiral Nexus, who had commanded the Council observer ship during the battle, moved to the center of the chamber. I witnessed the human strategy firsthand. Their soldiers knew many would not return, yet they still volunteered for the mission. The Admiral's compound eyes swept across the chamber. In my 1,000 years of life, I have never seen such courage. President Foster surveyed the council representatives. We won this battle because we were willing to fight. The next time the Chronovar come, and they will come, we need to stand together. All of us. Councillor Ziva nodded slowly. The humans have shown us what ruthlessness in defense of others truly means. It is not the savage impulse we feared, but something noble. She raised her hands, and the chamber's central display changed to show new images. Cestus IV being rebuilt, survivors returning to their homes, and human medical teams helping the injured. 7 billion lives were saved, Ziva said, because humans answered our call when no one else would. The council session continued with practical matters. Defense systems were being established around vulnerable systems. Early warning networks were being upgraded, and most surprisingly, military training programs were being developed, with human instructors teaching council species how to defend themselves. After the formal session ended, Admiral Wells approached Ambassador Scott. "Do you think they understand now?" she asked quietly. Scott watched the alien representatives talking among themselves, many casting curious glances toward the humans. "They're beginning to," he replied. "They've lived in peace so long they'd forgotten its price." Major Diane Howard entered the chamber walking with a slight limp from injuries sustained on Cestus IV. Of her original 12-person team, only 4 had survived. But their mission had succeeded. "Major," Admiral Wells greeted her. "I didn't expect to see you here. The council requested my presence," Diane explained. "They wanted to hear directly from someone on the ground." "And what did you tell them?" asked Scott. "The truth," Diane said simply, "that we didn't fight because we love war. We fought because someone had to." Across the chamber, a group of Cestus representatives approached. Their skin was pale green and their 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. One stepped forward and bowed deeply to Diane. "Major Howard," the alien said, "my family lived in the Western City. Your team destroyed the harvester that was drilling there. You saved my children. We cannot repay such a debt." Diane looked uncomfortable with the praise. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," the Cestus citizen replied. "No one did. Only humans." As the day ended, a special ceremony was held in the council chamber. The human soldiers who had fallen were honored, their names read aloud one by one. It took hours, but no council member left. Afterward, Admiral Wells stood on a balcony overlooking the council world's capital city. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in purple and gold. President Foster joined her, looking tired but satisfied. "The council has approved our proposal," the president said. "A joint defense force with ships and personnel from all member worlds. Humans will train them." Wells nodded. "It won't be easy. Most of these species have no concept of military thinking." "They'll learn," Foster replied. "They have to. The galaxy is more dangerous than they realized, and they've asked us to lead this new force," Wells added. "They trust us now." The president smiled slightly. "Ironic, isn't it? 3 years ago, they called us too aggressive to join the council. Now they want us to protect them." "They called us ruthless," Wells corrected. "And we are, when we need to be." Below them in the city, lights began to come on as darkness fell. In one large plaza, a memorial was being built. It would show a human soldier standing alongside aliens from various worlds, all united in defense of life. "Sometimes," the admiral continued, looking out at the peaceful city, "what looks like ruthlessness to the unprepared is actually the highest form of courage." The president nodded. Humans had always known this truth. Now finally, the galaxy was learning it too. In the darkness of deep space, the remaining Chronover ships regrouped and considered their next move. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they had been defeated. The species they would face when they returned would not be the same. The Galactic Council had changed forever, and humans, the ruthless, primitive newcomers, had been the ones to change it.